の鼓動が消えかかるそれがオレンジャー熱い血流れる鋼のマシン
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 23 for Your Eyes Ohranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
Not bad, man. Doing pretty well. Finally, it's sunny in Cleveland, which is great. So
yes, still
sort of it's still cold. It's still cold.
Well, it's going to be warm.
This
week.
Finally, I think this is finally. This is supposed to be the last cold thing, and now it's springtime now. Finally.
Yes. I know, listeners, if you are listening to this from a different part of the world or a different time in the future, the amount of times that Dave said finally might have seemed like overkill. But from here and now in this vantage point, let me tell you, if anything, he was being restrained.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you thought I said finally too many times, either you're not connected with the weather or you have not seen the return of The Rock to Monday Night Live Raw, which if you have never seen it is maybe the greatest theatrical piece of live television I've ever laid my eyes on.
Well, Dave, as we are finally heading into what is left of the spring and then into the summer, we're getting into swimsuit season. Which is, just something that's on my mind because today we are watching episode 23 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger, and it is called The Final Swimsuit.
Man, I can't tell you how much I have been looking forward to this episode. Why would it be called The Final Swimsuit? That's just such a weird name for an episode that I have been just burning with curiosity to figure out where they would possibly go with this episode.
Well, Dave, as always, we have two options on this, which is that it is being extremely literal or it has nothing to do with the episode at all.
Yeah, I don't know which I would like. I think I would prefer that it be literal on this one. I just want to know how they're going to work that into the plot of a Super Sentai episode.
Well, we will discover that soon, but before that, Dave, as always, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. What is our first star of the week?
So our first star of the week is it was Avengers weekend this past weekend. And
happy Avengers weekend to you, Dave.
Happy Avengers weekend to you. And so we'll do our best not to spoil it for anyone. Although I will say, this was a really weird experience for me to watch this movie.
This is why I wanted to talk about it, because I didn't want to actually talk about the events of the movie at all. So if you haven't had a chance to see it yet, do not worry about that. I'm more interested in talking about the existence of this movie and what it was like to go, see it.
It was very strange. Man, I feel like I was gonna say something about spoilers, and I feel like even saying something about the spoilers might be a spoiler. I don't even want to tread on that territory, but remind me to say it next week. Because by then you'll have had 2 weeks, and I feel like if that might be on you if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen it by then.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So, the
fact that this movie exists and the scope of it. Oh, by the way, heads up, I did see a news report. It is the biggest opening of any movie ever.
I mean, sure.
Which, yeah, of course.
Because here's the jam. I remember when I was going to see the Thomas Jane Punisher movie years ago, right?
Yeah.
I forget when that came out, but I remember it was when I was in college. I was going
to say, it's a while ago at this point.
I went to go see that movie, and I really thought, because this was around the same time. I think this was sort of in between Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man 3. And at the time, I don't think I really had a good grasp as to, because you know how now all of us know, weird details about, what rights different studios own? That was not the case 12 years ago. They were just, the superhero movies.
Right, nobody was paying attention to that. I mean, that's not true. Some very, very wealthy people were paying a ton of attention to it, just not you and I.
Right. So I remember thinking, man, why would they have, they're doing this Punisher movie it would be so great if like Spider-Man was not like in it, but like in the background of it.
Right, he's driving through New York City, and you just see a shot of Spider, just in the background. There he swings, and it's like one little thing, and then he would be done.
And it was this like pipe dream I had, like, man, and then maybe what if they made these other movies and these other movies, and then eventually they finally brought them all together for Secret Wars, and then like that's how we finally got Venom in the Spider-Man movies. Because of course you got to remember at the time the Spider-Man movies were like the movies.
Yeah, they were. Well, there was the X-Men. The X-Men movies were there too.
Yes, that's true. So that is what I was thinking back in the day, like, man, like finally gonna get Venom after like, you know, this weird thing that's never ever gonna happen when they can do the Secret Wars. And now what's crazy is they finally did all of that stuff, except they made it with the Infinity Wars. There is a Venom movie coming out, but it is in no way related.
Yeah, that is very strange. I was reading this wild article, and it's not a wild article, but it was talking about the existence of the Avengers. And it wasn't a complaint, like, let me make that clear. But it was saying how bizarre it is that this movie exists. And it's not, I mean, okay, is it an Avengers sequel? Yeah, sort of, but not really. And they were talking about how strange it is that here's this movie, and it's not really a sequel to one particular other movie. It is the culmination of 10 years or something and 18 movies worth of filmmaking. And if you have not seen those other movies, with the possible exception of Ant-Man, this Infinity War doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, like, honestly, it's barely a movie. Like,
it really, I was thinking about it on the way home. This is a clip show. This is like the final clip show. This is like the final clip show episode of these 10 years.
Right, and again,
I mean, it's not a retrospective.
I don't want to talk about,
it's barely a movie.
The stuff that happens. But yeah, like, there's not a lot that, like, you can infer from just this movie. Or maybe there is. I genuinely don't know. I do know that there was some sort of New York Times opinion article saying, like, wow, they just, like, put these characters in this movie and didn't introduce any of them at all. I was like, well, dude, yeah, they did. They've spent the last decade introducing these characters. Like, if you are the person reviewing this movie, you probably should have noticed that at some point over the last decade.
Yeah, and they were just talking about how, like, it's just this bizarre, giant thing that nobody's ever done before. Like, just the scope of this, if you consider all of this as, in a way, one project that was all leading to the final culmination, which is because the next Ant-Man movie and the next Captain Marvel movie are going to be feeding into Avengers Infinity War 2. Mm-hmm. You're talking about a 21 movie cycle or a 20 movie cycle that is all leading into this one final movie. Just the absolute insanity of the scope of a project of that, it almost boggles the mind. And listen, am I worried about giant mega corporations taking over the earth and, like, running our governments?
Absolutely.
Yes, obviously. I've seen a bunch of futuristic movies. Clearly, I'm concerned about that. However, Matt, on the other hand, if this is what it takes to get me to Avengers Infinity War 2, am I more okay with it? I mean, yeah, obviously. Like, bread and circuses, dude.
Absolutely.
I'm a human. I love bread, and I love those circuses. That's what I want.
Anyway, yeah, so, like, we can't really talk about it much more without actually talking about the movie, which we're not going to do. But it was a really good time, and I'm glad that we got a chance to see it.
Yeah.
I'm glad that we got a chance to see it the other day, and I'm also glad that, like, we just got to, like, have that thing happen in our lifetime. It's very weird, and I'm into it. Dave,
Yep.
What is our second star of the week?
So our second star of the week, Matt, is yesterday, Beth and I, we went out to one of our favorite restaurants, which is called Six Flavors, and you've been there. It's
yes.
an Indian buffet it's in Cleveland, and it's about half an hour away from our house, so it's kind of a hike, but it's worth it. And, you know, I realize this. we spend a lot of time talking about things to do in and around Cleveland. Have we ever, do we literally have any listeners that are not our immediate friends that live in Cleveland? Do we know that?
Yes, I believe there are a few.
Okay, right on. Well, this is for you. We should do like a visitor's special, like a little tour guide to Cleveland episode at some point. Anyways, it could be our clip show, Matt, just talking about all the great stuff that's in Cleveland. So anyways, so we're going on to this restaurant. It's out in like Middlebury Heights or something. Yeah, Parma somewhere in there. And we're walking in, and because it's got just big pictures on the front windows of all sorts of different food, right? All sorts of delicious Indian food, and it's like, come here and you can eat this food, right? And so I'm walking in, and there's a big picture of a dessert called gulab jamun. And have you ever had these, Matt? Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I have no idea what you're talking about.
So a gulab jamun is, imagine a donut hole, okay? With me so far?
Okay, I'm there.
You know what a donut hole is, right? You're familiar with?
Yes.
Yes, okay, cool. So imagine a donut hole, but instead, once you're done frying the donut hole, instead of letting it cool off and then eating it later, you take that donut hole and you just plunk it into a bath of warm sugar syrup.
Okay. And
then it just kind of sits in there, and it acts like a sponge for this sugar syrup. And then you just eat it warm, and that's gulab jamun. They're incredible. Yeah. So I'm walking in, and the reason that we go to this place is it's a buffet. And so we're walking in, and I see the picture of the gulab jamun, and I turn to Beth, and I say, dude, I love gulab jamun. Thank goodness they never put out gulab jamun on this buffet. I literally, I couldn't handle that. I can't be trusted around buffet levels of gulab jamun.
Sure.
You can already tell where this story is going. We go in to sit down. Beth goes, I sit with the babies. Beth goes up first, and she comes back, and she says, predictably,
I have terrible news.
I have terrible news. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And she says, I am not kidding you. And sure enough, gulab jamun on the buffet. And I managed to, okay, so here is, I think, the theory of Indian desserts. Like if there was like a concept behind them, is that they make them so incredibly sweet that you just kind of don't want more than a little bit. You know? I think that's their right. I think that's their theory. I'm an American, chuckleheads. I was weaned on Coca-Cola. That means nothing to me. Like, I can consume incredible amounts of sweets. You don't even know. And I don't eat a lot of sugar anymore. So anyways,
right. You
I did
have
manage
really
to hold
adapted
myself.
the incredible sweets. I was born to it.
I was born to it. I didn't know healthy food till I was already a man. That's not true. Our mother fed us very healthy food. Thanks, Mom. So anyways, I did manage to restrain myself and only eat like 6 of these gulab jamun. And you're thinking to yourself, like, oh, 6 donut holes. That's not so bad. Remember, they're soaked in sugar syrup. And I only add a little bit of like 2 other desserts. This place is so good, Matt. Anyways, I felt really good about myself that I only ate that many. Beth was like, oh, I couldn't eat anymore. I was like, I definitely could. I will go to town on the rest of that pan of gulab jamun and put myself into a diabetic coma today. But I didn't do that. I felt very good about myself.
Congratulations.
So anyways,
babe.
what? Yeah, thanks. I managed. How incredible is that? I'm boasting to the internet about showing what is like a very reasonable degree of restraint around a food I like. Good for me. Matt, what is our third star of the week?
Third star of the week. This is a short one. But last night, a listener of ours, Alex, the same guy who had sent us the letter with those magnets a few weeks ago, he actually happened to be in town, and so he hit me up on Twitter, and we went out and we grabbed a couple of beers, and it was a very nice time. That
sounds really cool.
So listeners, I am going to extrapolate this out to the rest of you. Alex was a super nice guy and fun to hang out with, so I'm now assuming that all of you are super nice and fun to hang out with. So good for you. You guys, y'all did it. Thank you for sending.
You did it.
Thank you for sending a very kind and charming representative to us in this our fair city of Cleveland. I did feel a little badly because like it was Saturday night, so a lot of the cool places where, you know, if someone were to come into Cleveland, I would say, oh, you should do this, this, and this. like those places are kind of a train wreck on the weekends.
Oh yeah, well, I think that's probably the case in most cities.
So we had to sort of play it by ear, but it was very fun. I don't really have a whole lot on that star, but I wanted to.
Well, I will say I don't want to jump into his business, but why was he in? You just happen people don't happen to be in Cleveland super frequently. That's not.
It was a business trip thing.
Oh, right on. Okay.
That's it for that. Dave, what is our fourth star of the week?
So our fourth star of the week, man, is Beth and I have started watching a new show because we're old. That's not. I mean, young people start to watch new shows. That's the show that we're watching. It's a British show, and it is called Gardener's World.
Okay.
And it has been on for like 37 years. It's been on forever. And there like used to be one host for it, and then like a couple of years ago they switched over to another host, and which was apparently quite the tizzy in the British gardening world.
Ooh.
Yeah. And so, I mean, like, isn't that the most British thing ever to have celebrity? Like, the idea of a celebrity gardener is kind of incredible to me. But anyways, we're watching this show, and it's like a yearly show, right? Like, they just do it, but they only do it in the spring, like early spring and into fall, and then it's off air in the winter, because, like, you're not gardening in the winter. And it's a weekly show, and they're just sort of like telling you stuff about gardens, and you're like walking through the presenter. He has a garden that's called Longmeadow. His name is Monty Don, and it's called Longmeadow, and it's on his like sheep farm or something, and it's incredible. And it's like 4 acres worth of beautifully tended garden. I hate him and I hate it, but I love it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? And so we're watching all these gardening shows, and as a kid, our mom really liked gardening, and we only did, like, I didn't like gardening. Like, I helped mom because, like, I am her son, and I love her, and also I lived at her house and, like, ate her food.
Yeah, like, that is a thing that I did, but it was always because I was, compelled to do it by familial obligation. I never wanted to garden.
Yeah, I was never like, ooh, gardening. And now as I'm getting older and I have a yard of my own, and I am looking out, and I'm just, this could be such a much more pleasant space. Like, I get it now. And so now I'm like watching this TV show and trying to like absorb all of this information. And man, like British television, we've talked about this before when we were talking about the Great British Bake Off. British television is just so pleasant. At least the stuff of it that I watch. It's so pleasant because it's so chill, and it's not like weird camera angles, and nobody is pretending to like tell bad jokes, and everybody's just really relaxed. They're like, hey, welcome to the garden. I grow campanulas. That's the name of a flower, man. I just learned that.
Nice.
So it's on Amazon Prime, and you can watch it, and it's just this like really affable British dude, and he's telling you about plants, and then you go see like all these beautiful gardens. They just sort of walk you through, and they're like, this is how you could do it. And then he says this weekend, because it's like, it comes out every week. He says this weekend you should be doing like X and Y and Z in your garden, like based on like the time of year, like you should be doing whatever. And I love it, man. It's just we've been binging Gardener's World, man. That's what the show is called. What is our fifth star of the week?
Dave, fifth star of the week is one of the free games on the Xbox Live Gold service this month is Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
Ooh, that was a very good game.
Which is a very good game that I had never actually played. And so I downloaded this game, and I've been playing it. And Dave, I like it a lot. Here's a thing that occurred to me, though. I think that up until the point of Assassin's Creed, like from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed Syndicate, I think I have now like played at least part of all of those games. Mm-hmm. I have never owned one of them.
Have you seriously?
Yeah, I was trying to figure this out because like the first couple, I had a roommate. I think all of them, I either had a roommate who had it, or I borrowed it from someone who had already played the game. I think the only game that I have missed in doing it like this is that one weird one where you're like a rogue Templar and you're up in like trying to find the Northwest Passage or something.
Oh, yeah, I never played that one.
And was there one in the French Revolution?
Yeah, there definitely was. Assassin's Creed Unity. It was great.
Okay, I never played the French Revolution one, but other than that, I have somehow managed to play like every game in this giant series and never spent a like single penny on it. And I do not know how I have somehow lucked into it, but I'm very excited to be playing this game now.
Yeah, it's really good, and I won't tell a lot of jokes about it because I think we told jokes about it when I was playing it.
Oh, I'm sure we did.
Yeah, but it's
that
a
is
very,
how long
very
ago
good
this game came out. I think that was that the one that you got like right when we started this podcast.
Yeah, it might. That sounds about right. It's a really, really good game. I think I complained about the female Evie, I think her name is. I complained about Evie's clothes because assassins are supposed to be, stealthy and just like blending in, and everybody else is walking around in like giant bustle skirts and corsets, and she's wearing like thigh-high leather boots and a duster jacket. It's just like very obviously does not fit in with anything else that's happening around her. There's a handful of other problems with the game, but aside from that,
I mean, that is the power of her stealth, even with all those things. It's like the way that Gambit is like a super thief, but he wears metal boots and a bright pink shirt.
Yeah, and like a weird headpiece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like those are things that would make you stand out, but Gambit's so good it doesn't matter. It is the same with this, I am sure.
Yeah, no, that obviously that has to be the case because she is an incredible assassin.
Gambit and Evie would be at odds with each other because she is part of the assassins and he is part of the Thieves Guild.
I'll never, dude, till the day I die, I will be in love with Chris Claremont's insane take on accents.
Anyway, so that is just a thing that I've been doing today. But another thing that we can do today, Dave, is watch episode 23 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. Boy, that's it's a mouthful. Normally I get it right, and I'm just gonna take the L on that one. It's fine. We're gonna watch the episode. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, we've just finished watching episode 23, and as it turns out, the title is entirely literal.
Yeah, it's a pretty incredible, this is a very, very, just a very, very good episode.
Before we start into it, I do want to note that now that the combination of the Ohranger Buster configuration has been created, they have slightly redone the opening sequence to include that.
Oh yeah, which is fun. Okay, so this episode, it starts off on the beach, and it's what we see is Shohei and Yuji, and they're in the water, or they're running out into the water. They're like, "Hooray, summer!"
The three things that they shout, and these are like, it's kind of hilarious. They're shouting "summer," "the sea," and "youth." Which, like, sure, like, they are celebrating all three of those things, but the fact that they're just, like, saying them literally is really amazing to me.
So they run into the water, and they're just, like, goofing around for a second, and then Goro pops up out of the water, and they're freaked out. They're, "Captain, what are you doing, man?" He says, "Listen, just because it's a day off doesn't mean that you're allowed to relax your military readiness. To train, we're going to swim," and the camera pans way out, and he says, "to that island over there," and it's like on the horizon.
Yeah, it is miles away.
So,
and Shohei says, like, "Listen, like, Captain, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, but, like, it's our day off. Like, we're at the beach.
Like, come on, man.
And you know what the beach is for?" And he pulls out binoculars from, like, I don't know, some, like, otherworldly, like, interdimensional space pocket, because he certainly had nowhere to carry them and wasn't holding them a second ago.
Okay, so Matt, allow me to interrupt if I may for a moment. In the role-playing game Exalted, I may have mentioned it once or twice before. There is a special, like, magical power that you can get where you can basically, you, like, put on, because, like, you don't want to carry around like a 12-foot broadsword, right?
Sure, who would? And it takes time to put on all, like, the crazy magical armor that you wear. So if you're very good at it, there's a charm you can get where you basically hold all of your stuff and then you, like, blink real hard and it all disappears from off of you and it gets sent to elsewhere with a capital E. It's just like an indeterminate, non-dimensional space
that exists elsewhere, but like you can't get to it. It's just someplace else. And then when you want to, you can sort of like doot, and you get all your stuff back immediately, so you could, kill a dragon or whatever. And so apparently the Rangers can do that too. Sorry, I was thinking about it because that comes up a lot in this episode.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, we know that they do it with their power bracers, right? Because those just appear and disappear with no
zero
to,
regard
continuity.
For,
but apparently, Shohei has extended that ability to also include his pervin binoculars.
Yep.
The ones that he pulls out to perv on people.
Yeah, so job one for Shohei is he's just checking out ladies. And so he's looking around at the beach. He's like, nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that either. And he finally sees what he has decided is like the object of his active creep. I feel it's more of like a passive creep, right? Mm-hmm. Now he's going to go engage with these ladies. So he swims over. And predictably.
And they're just sort of like on a float. Like they're lying on their faces on a float.
Yeah. So he swims over and he's like, hey, he says something like, hey, ladies. And they jump up and turn around and they got very scary masks on. And Shohei like freaks out and he kind of jumps back in the water. And then they take the masks off and lo and behold, obviously, because it couldn't be anybody else, it's Juri and Momo.
And then
here's the amazing thing.
Then they proceed to totally clown on him even further.
Okay, they do. They absolutely do. They're like, this is a terrible plan. I don't know what you thought you were going to accomplish. Also, why are you swimming? The water is standing height here. You could just stand up. And then he does. And not only is it standing height, like it comes up to his chest, it only comes up to like his knees. And it is impossible that he would have swum all the way over and not realize that the water was that shallow.
Dave, I mean, listen, it's such is the power of his, you know how when you're watching a cartoon and someone is very hungry and like, hungry to the point where like they look at their friends and their friends start to look like fried chickens or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And like the smell of food comes from somewhere else and it literally picks them up and drags them to where the food is. Mm-hmm. That I think is what was going on with Shohei here. Like like Tex Avery Wolf cartoonish was his like active perv mode. It like he did not even notice the earth around him.
Here's the most incredible thing, and I just realized this as we were talking about it. Right, Juri and Momo, they were facing away from Shohei. At no point do they turn back to see him. Okay. But when they turn around, they already had the masks on. Which means that, like, they planned for this. This was the plan. They're like, we're going to go out, and we just know that Shohei is at this beach, and we know that he's going to get his creep on. And so, not if, but when he comes over to creep on us, we will scare him with these masks.
Hey man, listen, they spend a lot of time around Shohei. They know what that dude's about.
Yeah, they do. Also, I am just going to say, ladies, love the confidence. Because there's a lot of other women on that beach, and Juri and Momo were like, oh no, he's going to come over and try to creep on us. Like, we are number one, like the A1 catches on this beach, and so we're going to get it, and we're going to have these masks on, and it's going to be amazing.
I mean, hey, I'll tell you what, they're not wrong.
They're not wrong. Okay, so
okay, where are we? So that's where like the titles, like the episode's title card comes up. We cut from here to the moon.
Yes. Yep. Uh-huh.
And on the moon, Prince Bulldont, the child robot with the dog's face, is looking at like a fashion magazine. And it's like, oh yeah, look at that like fashion babe. I could use me some of that stuff there.
Yes.
I don't know what this is supposed to be communicating because he is a robot. And I don't know if that his like robot form is meant to like be attracted to human women, but apparently it is today.
Well, I don't know, but Bacchus Wrath, his dad, is also into it because he's right there with Prince Bulto, and he says like, yeah, like my boy likes perving on ladies in the magazine. Great, good job. Here's the only way I can make sense of this, Matt. Because if you look at Prince Bulto looks nothing like a human. Okay,
Sure.
I mean, he's got like arms and legs, but he has a weird dog face. Emperor Bacchus Wrath vaguely looks like a human, except he's like got a big barrel body and like little tiny arms and legs, but he has like a vaguely human face. Empress Hysteria looks pretty human.
Yeah.
Like the shape of her face is very human, like her body form is very human. So the only thing I can come up with is that Emperor Bacchus Wrath has a secret love of human ladies that he has never admitted to anybody, but that he himself built Empress Hysteria like Pygmalion style to be the perfect empress for him and then married her, and he built her to look like a human lady.
Okay.
But he's never
I feel like
told
we're
her
going
that,
a long way for this, but I can see it.
Listen, Matt. It doesn't, okay, it sounds like I'm going a really long way. It's like the explanation for it is very long, but I'm so used to this at this point. Like the muscle memory is there. Like that thought process happened for me very quickly. So anyways, he's looking at this and he's like, oh yeah. And so is Emperor Bacchus Wrath. And Empress Hysteria comes in and she's like, what are you doing? And he basically is like, I only read it for the articles, Mom.
So she snatches the magazine away and starts tearing it up, and she has a very odd. The thing that she is upset about here seems kind of off base, or at least it is not what I was expecting. Because the thing that is bothering her so much is that the humans in this magazine are wearing fancy clothes.
Yes,
and because apparently humans always feel the need to cover themselves up with fancy clothes. Because like they need to hide the shame of their horrible meat bodies.
Yeah, she says they are empty inside, which is big talk coming from somebody who is a robot and probably is actually mostly empty space inside. But she says humans are empty inside, and so they must adorn their outside, and I hate them for it. It does kind of make sense because when you think about it, none of the Bara Empire people wear clothes.
Yeah, I guess that's just like it
she
looks like they are, but that is their robot body.
Exactly. So they're just chilling naked all the time. So she says, I will use that against them. Like, I will use their clothes against them, and that is how I will destroy the Ohrangers, and then by extension all of humanity, I assume. All right.
So, cut back down to the beach, and it has been a long day at the beach. And the Ohrangers are like, man, we're beat, we're tired. Let's grab a shower to shower all this like ocean and sand off of ourselves, and then get changed and head out and grab some food somewhere. Like, cool.
Yeah, this will be great.
They split up. They go into their like separate shower rooms, and we meet our monster for the week, Bara Clothes. Yeah,
and he's got a very weird look. I mean, I'm having trouble even kind of parsing how to explain it.
Yeah, normally I can equate it to something, but he just looks like a weird robot monster. Like there's kind of nothing else to it. He's got sort of like an angler fishy sort of like light on a stick sticking out of the top of his head.
Okay, yeah, he does. And then his face is on sort of like a long protruding neck kind of thing. Yeah, I don't know. Just look it up if you really care. He's like a weird robot monster.
Yeah, like any points that this dude gets at the end of the episode is not really going to be based on his look. So while the dudes are showering, he sort of sneaks up to the door of their changing room, says metallic wave, and like zaps all of the clothes that are like hanging on a hook waiting to be put on after the guys are done with their showers.
Yes. Oh, okay, Matt, real quickly, sorry, let me interrupt you for a moment. I am looking at the concept art for Bara Clothes. And when you see the concept art, this all of a sudden makes a lot more sense. He's supposed to be like like a caterpillar. He's like a crazy caterpillar monster. And so, like, because they weave silk, right? Like, he's supposed to be like a silkworm monster is the idea.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like, it's weird to say, but if you look at the concept art, like, it's going to make a lot more sense. So anyways, that's his jam. Which, when you think about it, is very clever. So he does this thing called metallic wave, and he shoots an energy beam at the guy's clothes, okay?
Yeah,
but they don't change.
No,
they're just clothes.
Like, the guys get out of their showers and they're putting on their clothes, and as they do, like, they sort of like stop and have a weird look on their face, but then the camera cuts away to bar clothes trying to do the same thing over in the women's changing room. But as he sort of like sneaks up to the women, they are like, hey, there is like a big evil monster trying to like creep on us in the changing room. Let's go kick him in the face.
Yeah, it's really, really great because Momo, like, you can see just like the shoulders up, and she like starts to take like the shoulder strap of her bathing suit off, and she immediately stops and like turns around and looks. She's looking in the total opposite direction. So whatever she just has like a sixth sense about like being perved on. And they don't catch that it's a monster until they run outside. But I really dig it because he's totally able to get the guys. Because I will just tell you, it totally makes sense to me that guys would not have developed, and like the world is a horrifying place. Sorry, ladies. But that guys would not have necessarily have developed a sixth sense about being creeped on, and the ladies are just immediately like, someone is looking weird at me. Like, what's going on? I don't even have to see it. I know what's happening.
Yeah. So they like jump out of the changing room and like are ready to go like kung fu fight this evil monster.
So they run out and they're about to start fighting Bara clothes, and they're like, dude, first of all, we are going to fight you because you're a Bara Baranoi monster. But also, way to be a real creep about like checking us out in the changing room. And Bara clothes is like, yeah, don't flatter yourselves. Like, I wasn't interested. I like a woman with real curves. And he mimes on himself like gigantic breasts.
Like gigantic
even considering
cartoon breasts.
Yeah, like even that he is a very large monster, they would be ridiculously huge. Which is just both A, funny, and B, like pretty cold Bara clothes. So then they start fighting. And which is also a weird thing to say because the actresses, I don't know the names, but Momo and Juri, they're very attractive ladies.
Yeah.
It's like the primary requirement, as we've talked about, like the primary requirements for being on these shows are attractive and sick flips. Like that's basically what you need.
Yeah, and they got both of those in spades.
Yeah, they're both very pretty ladies, and they're both very good at flips. So I'm not sure what Bara Close is. Well, I mean, he's into cartoonishly huge breasts, I guess.
Yeah. And also, he's a bad guy. Even if you were an evil robot from space, you should not body shame people.
Yeah. So anyway, so they start fighting, and they fight for a second. It's going fine, and then the guys show up.
Yeah, like Momo gets knocked into the water, and the guys go over to sort of help her up, and she says, "Oh, good, you're all here. Let's transform and beat the crap out of this monster." But then suddenly, the guys all get evil looks on their faces.
Yeah.
And like their clothing transforms from like their regular beach clothing into like sort of like a metal armor uniform thing.
Yeah, they've got like sort of metallic lines painted on their face. And Bara Clothes says, "Oh yeah, like, gotcha. I hit their clothes with metallic waves, which allows me to control their clothes and therefore all of their movements, and so I control them." And the guys seem to be really, like, it seems as though they have just, like, turned evil now, which I think is sort of a bummer, because I think it would have been way cooler if he was just controlling their clothes, and they did not have, like, they spent the whole time being like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry," like, while they were trying to punch Momo. You see what I'm saying?
That would be cool, but that is not what we get. They just go straight evil. Momo also gets zapped with the metallic wave, and she turns evil. And then they all turn on Juri and are grabbing her. They manage to get her power bracers away from her, but before she can get zapped with metallic wave, she like fights free of the other four, like does a sick flip over Baraclot's heads and just runs up like into the hills, into the woods, away from them.
Yeah, she does. As she's running away or trying to get them, she's like, "No, guys, we are soldiers with iron will," which I thought was a great line. And and so she escapes into the hills, and then we get, I think, maybe the best scene that I've seen in this entire show.
Are you talking about how Juri goes full Rambo?
Yes, I am. So we started the boots up, and we get like a slow pan up Juri. And she has, so she ran into the woods wearing a lime green swimsuit, like a lime green one-piece swimsuit. She has since acquired socks, combat boots, a headband, a combat knife, several grenades, a string of ammunition, and what appears to be a .50 caliber Browning automatic rifle.
Yeah, it was either that or it's an M60. I'm not sure, but it's a big belt-fed machine gun.
It's a very, very large gun. And she just has it. I have a theory about this, and it makes it even better, which is that Juri is so hardcore that she just has, like, Rambo stashes all over the country. And, like, if anything ever goes bad, she just, like, knows where to go to pick up her gear. Yep. No, I love that.
She's also got we don't see it here. She does also have a grappling hook with her.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's another thing I was going to mention, because we're going to see that later. And she just had it. That bothers me a tiny bit more, unless she also has a grappling hook stash someplace else.
I'd believe it.
Well, okay, I'm just, like, because even if she did have a stash, she doesn't have a grappling hook now. And not that it's, like, an immodest bathing suit, but there's definitely not place to hide a grappling hook and, like, a big hank of rope on it, okay? So, She then also has like a little internal monologue while she's posing with all of this gear, and she's sort of thinking back to Baraclot's, and she thinks about the antenna that's on his forehead, and she says, "Ooh, that must be it. Like, that's his flashing red button. If I can destroy that, then we should be good, at least as far as the other Rangers go, and then we can sort of move on from there."
Yeah, so as she's, like, finishing with her preparations, Shohei jumps out of the woods, and he has, like, a big, like, rope weapon himself. So he sort of, like, gets it around her and is, like, pulling her in with this rope.
Yeah, and as he's doing that, a bunch of Bara soldiers arrive, and she's sort of, like, fighting with Shohei. She's like, "No, don't do this. You've got to stop. Like, come back to yourself." And she pulls the knife out, and she's like, "Shohei, I'm so sorry." And then the Bara soldiers are gearing up to do some sort of attack on her. And she cuts the rope that Shohei has used to restrain her and kind of dives out of the way just in time so that Shohei gets blasted. And it's like an energy net that they shoot out that then coalesces into a physical net, which is a very cool attack.
It is a cool attack. We haven't seen them do that in a while.
Yeah. And so she... So she escapes. Shohei is sort of wrapped up, and then she just sort of like runs off in a direction into the woods.
Wait, Dave, I'm sorry. Before she runs away, she does pick up that machine gun and empty it into the crowd of Bara soldiers.
I forgot about that, because dude, this has got to be a callback, because I'm pretty sure there's a scene where it's just like a bunch of empty shells landing at her feet, which I'm pretty certain is a scene in Rambo.
Yeah, I have not seen Rambo in a very long time, and I think the only time I've ever seen it was like the TV version on TBS or something. But yeah, this whole thing is very much like, you feel like they're doing a thing with it.
Yeah. Did you know, I did not know this, because I've actually never seen the first Rambo. I've only ever seen like Rambo Returns, Rambo Harder, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently the first Rambo movie is actually like a pretty sympathetic look at like the horrors of war and like the PTSD that John Rambo experiences on returning home after like engaging in this incredible conflict with other living, breathing human beings.
Yeah, that is, I think, the thing that people forget about those Sylvester Stallone movies is that those series would eventually become like way over the top and ridiculous. sometimes in glorious ways, like in the case of Rocky 4. But like the first Rocky movie and the first Rambo movie are like real movies.
Yeah. Which I kind of might want to go back and watch Rambo, because I've never seen it. So anyways.
Okay, so enough about Stallone. I mean, there's never really enough about him, but for now.
I was going to say.
So Juri, before she runs off, just like hits Shohei in the face with the butt of her rifle and knocks him out. But apparently he's out of ammo, so she just drops the rifle and runs into the woods, where she's then attacked by Yuji. Yuji has like a staff thing. And they're fighting for a while. There's sort of a bit down by a river. And then she hops up into a tree. And
that bit by the river is really cool.
It is. It's another one of those like fun camera things where the action is really happening sort of like in the background, and the foreground is just like watching this river going by. Mm-hmm. So Juri gets up into a tree, has this grappling hook, manages to like throw it down, wrap it around Yuji's legs, and then she hops out of the tree and has set herself up on sort of like a pulley thing. So as she's falling, she's dragging Yuji up and like kicks him right in the stomach as he goes past. He falls down and lands on his head and falls unconscious.
Dude, it's Juri is 100% my favorite Ohranger. Like, yeah. I like Goro a lot, but Juri is the business.
Yeah, like when it comes down to stuff like this, like she has no equal.
Yeah. So as she's doing this, she runs into a little boy who's just in the woods.
He's like rustling in some tall grass. She does almost stab him.
Yeah.
Like she runs over with the knife and is like, "Oh, okay, no, you're a helpless child. I won't kill you with this knife. Hello, helpless child. What seems to be the problem?" And what has happened?
Why are you here?
His parents have both been attacked by a strange creature. We can only assume by our clothes, although we never know for sure because we never see his parents.
No, yeah. And he says, "I'm not sure what's going on, and also my legs aren't working."
Yeah, I think that might be a weird translation because like later on he can kind of move around. I think he's just like hurt his leg as he was running away.
Yeah, like it's got to be because we do see him walk. And so she says, "Well, just like I'll carry you." So she kind of carries him piggyback style for a little while, and then she sets him down and she says, "Hey, you need to go hide. Like something's up. Like I am."
My combat sense is tingling.
Yeah, like I'm basically like we're about to go, and then Momo jumps out. Momo jumps out and she's got twin swords.
Yeah, I don't know where. I guess she was given these swords as part of her metallic wave clothing outfit.
Oh, dude, Yuji is going to have like a full-blown polearm in 5 minutes. Like, I'm not even worried about these twin swords. So she's got these twin swords, and all Juri has is like the combat knife that we mentioned earlier, and so she's sort of like, it's a cool fight scene. Because Juri is having to fight very like defensively because obviously Momo has two swords, and she's got a combat knife.
Right, and she doesn't actually want to murder Momo.
Right. Yeah, no, I just, I really only mention it. We could probably stop talking about it at some point, just because how impressed I am at the fight sequences in this show. Like, they're just really well thought out and well choreographed. They're super cool. Well,
you know who else loves watching this fight sequence, Dave? Is Emperor Bacchus Wrath. Because when we cut up to the moon, and the entire, like, royal court up there is just watching it all on their viewing screen. Like, yes, Ohranger versus Ohranger. This is beautiful. Like, first they're going to kill each other, and then they're going to kill the world, which I don't know how they're going to do once they've killed each other. But we'll figure it out one step at a time.
We will get there when we come to it, yeah.
Anyway, Juri beats really, Momo. I forget exactly how it happens, but, you know.
But she does apologize. She's apologizing as she's doing it, which is a beautiful moment.
They have to keep on the run, and so what happens? I think Juri and the kids stop off by a river to like get some water or wash their faces or something. And Bara Close is sort of sneaking behind them. And he's like, "Oh, this is a perfect opportunity to zap Yellow, but the kid is in the way. So I can't actually like hit her with my beam."
Yeah, which seems, I mean, I don't know, dude, just zap the kid and then tell him to move out of the way, but whatever.
Well, in any case, this stalemate has ended. when Goro jumps out of the river. He has just been like underwater lurking this whole time.
Oh, yeah. I also want to say she has been at this riverside for a minute. So either Goro is, well, I don't know. We saw earlier in the episode, he also managed to surprise Yuji and Shohei. So maybe Goro could just hold his breath for a super long time.
Dude, Goro was just about to, like, on his day off, swim a couple of miles away to an abandoned island, like, just to maintain his military readiness. I'm sure that dude can swim very well.
So
anyway, like, so that they fight. She's kind of running away, and she's got the kid on her back again, and she's fighting Goro.
Yeah.
And she says to Goro, "Captain, please stop this. You're the strongest person I know." To which I say, that can't be true, because you know yourself. And listen, right now, you have fought off every member of your team with like a combat knife and some stuff that you had left in the woods while you have a little kid on your back, like fighting defensively. You are so much stronger than all of the other people on this team.
So anyways, so she's like running away. She's got this kid. Goro slashes at her with whatever weapon he has. I don't remember what. And he cuts open her bathing suit, but she does not even have a scratch underneath, which seems just like impossible.
Hey man, listen,
so anyway,
these are superheroes.
No, listen, okay, I'm just saying they could have just put like a tiny line of fake blood down. It wouldn't have been difficult.
It's a close shave, my friend.
So the little kid is there, and it turns out she's like they're fighting at a cliffside and blah blah blah, and then all of a sudden, bam. Turns out the little kid is also a clothes monster. He's a human being, but he has also been zapped with like metallic wave.
Yeah, and so he was already like riding her back, like she was giving him a piggyback. And so he just starts like choking her out, and the both of them just fall backwards off of this cliff.
Yeah, it's a great moment.
But thankfully, he's like into water.
Oh, yeah. They're totally fine. And so she climbs out. She climbs out of the water. And we see that she's got the kid, and he's like knocked out, but she has saved him, which is cool. Mm-hmm. And she's monologuing internally, and she says, "This is unforgivable that you've corrupted this little boy, but like I will avenge him." And so she sneaks into the dressing room where another woman is taking a shower. Like she's also like showering to get rid of the beach stuff, I guess. And she says, "I'm super sorry." To herself, she says this. She says, "I'm very sorry, but like for justice, I must borrow these clothes." And so she borrows this woman's clothes.
So she runs back out, and at this point, the rest of the other Ohrangers have like regained consciousness, and they are now all together with Bara clothes trying to fight Juri.
Yeah. So sorry, when Juri comes out, she is wearing sort of like a it's like a coverall onesie, just like a short beach cover garment thing.
Yeah.
Okay. But you can see that she is still wearing her swimsuit underneath. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So they're sort of fighting her. She manages to kind of fight them all off, but she leaves herself open, and Bara Clothes zaps her with metallic wave.
Yes.
But as he does this, she's like, "Oh crap, no!" And she sort of like throws off this outer garment, and she's just in her swimsuit again.
Yeah, but then
so
like she's still open, right? Like she hasn't managed to get behind cover. So
yeah.
Barred Clothes just zaps her again and says, "Well, now you're stuck because you can't take your swimsuit off because that's the last thing that you have on. That is your final swimsuit.
You would be naked." So first of all, the final swimsuit. Second of all, you would be naked. I also do love the assumption that in order to defeat this monster, Juri would be unwilling to be naked in order to fight this monster to save the world. So
I mean, she has, there's a sense of propriety. There are cameras around.
Yeah. So anyways, so he zaps her again, and she kind of gives him a smile, and then we see her green swimsuit flying through the air. So we see a sort of like shot of her from the shoulders up, and then it sort of like pans around, and clearly a gag is that did she actually do it? Is she really naked? No, obviously she's not naked. but she is wearing a bikini. She has stolen a bikini as well as this other garment. And I think just the idea that Bara Clothes is so surprised that she would think to have on a second swimsuit underneath, a final swimsuit.
Like, that throws him off enough that and plus, like, I think just the shock of seeing a pretty woman in a bikini has, like, stunned him for a moment.
Yeah, it's great because he does say, like, you've got a really nice body, which, hey, Bara Clothes, I do believe that you were mocking her for exactly the opposite of that, like, literally 15 minutes ago. So, figure yourself out.
Hey, man, he was... I think that now that he is confronted with the truth, he knows. He knows what he did wrong.
Yeah. Hey, wasn't there another episode where Juri was the only one who did not get... No. She pretended to be mind controlled. That's what it was.
Yes.
So anyways, I just love that she has defeated him with the power of layered clothing. That's just kind of an incredible...
It's sensible and tactical, Dave.
Yeah. So anyways, once she dives at him and she's still got her combat knife and she like cuts the antenna, and then once that happens, the other Rangers are free to, they're back to normal.
Right. They're like weird armor clothes become regular clothes again.
Yeah. So they henshin. And they're like, "Oh, Juri, thank goodness!" And they give her back her power bracelet, and then they all henshin. She unleashes a special attack, which we've never seen before, called Light Speed / Illusion, which is a great name. And it's sort of like a Chun-Li super kick, like she just kicks a whole bunch of times, and then it all hits you at once, I think.
Mm-hmm. And then she does. She follows up with a super attack with her Chouriki batons.
Yes. And then they do. What was it? Dynamite? Like super dynamite attack?
Chouriki dynamite attack? It's okay. So as we have seen, like everyone kind of has an ability where they Sonic the Hedgehog-esque turn into like a giant ball of energy and throw themselves at the monster. Chouriki dynamite attack is they all do it at the same time.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. So they do that. And then there's an explosion and then they come out of it and they all do a very, very good pose. It's super dramatic. So then they, Bara Clothes goes down. He goes giant. Gojo shows up. He goes giant. They summon the Chouriki mobiles. They create Robo and they fight. There is a really fun moment in this fight where now that I realize that he's supposed to be like a silkworm, this makes a lot more sense. Because he basically just shoots Bara Clothes he shoots Robo with a bunch of silly string.
Yeah, I do just have that in my notes as the silly string shock.
Yeah, but again, when you consider that he's supposed to be a silkworm, all of a sudden it makes sense.
A lot of sense.
And then he electrifies it, and I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to work, but whatever.
Well, that's why it's the silly string shock in my notes.
Oh, yeah, nice. Okay. So he does that, and then they're like, "Oh no, what are we going to do?" And Goro's like, "Well, we call Red Puncher. That's what we do." So they call Red Puncher, and Bara Clothes seems super surprised about the appearance of Red Puncher, which... That's on you, dude. That's just bad planning. You know they have another giant robot.
I mean, maybe he just hasn't been paying attention for the last couple of weeks. Like, there's a briefing every morning on, in the Machine Empire. And he just never pays attention.
She, Empress Hysteria, did say she was going to defeat them with the power of their clothes. Maybe Bara Clothes is just a new monster. Like, he literally was built yesterday. And she's like, just go fight these guys. And she forgot to tell him about Red Puncher because he, again, is very surprised. So Red Puncher arrives and, he saves the day. He, punches Bara Clothes very hard, and then he does his, Gatling fist. And then they merge into Robo Blaster Ultimate Cannon mode. I can't remember what it's called.
It's Buster. It's Buster mode.
Thank you. Yeah, Buster mode. And then they shoot him with very, very large guns. And they're shoulder-mounted guns, and I always they never do it. But Robo just sort of stands there. He's standing at attention with these giant shoulder cannons and they're shooting. And I always really want him to sort of take a step back and brace himself. You know what I mean? With his legs spread out, and then it would just be a more dynamic pose. And it would also make sense if you're firing giant energy cannons from your shoulders, so there would be some sort of recoil. And he doesn't. And it just sort of bums me out every time.
I mean, he's a very strong robot, Dave. He doesn't need to.
Yeah,
brace
no,
himself.
listen, I
He's got
recognize
that leg power.
I recognize that's like a hyper-specific thing to be like bummed out about, but like, guys, we've watched a lot of Super Sentai, and eventually your brain just learns to like tune out a lot of the big beats that are happening because they're always the same, and you find yourself focusing on the fact that like, oh, Robo should really be bracing his legs a little bit more. It's a symptom of what we are doing to ourselves here.
Oh yeah, I mean, whenever the Buster mode shows up, and I do like the Buster mode, I spend all of the time that it's on the screen thinking its big attack is just, okay, so Red Puncher doesn't attack, where he turns his arms into Gatling cannons and shoots the dude. But then
Yes, he does.
Later, he combines with Ohranger Robo, and his arms become cannons and shoot the dude. Like, it's the exact same attack coming from the exact same part of the same robot, but somehow, now that he's, like, riding Robo, it is a much more devastating attack, and I don't know why that is.
Oh, I assumed it's because, like, he's using the same cannons, but now he is also plugged into Robo's power source.
Maybe. Like, he's just using Robo as, like, a battery.
Yeah, basically. I mean, like, Robo doesn't appear to be, like, a real dynamic part of that equation. He's just a gun stand at that point. So...
yeah. Anyway, so that, if it's not obvious, that takes care of Barracloze, who explodes and dies. As he is exploding and dying, he does say, "I love you, oh yellow."
Yeah.
He's really turned
Which
around
puts
on this.
Yeah, that puts a real interesting dynamic on this whole episode.
Well, also, though,
So-
it does mean that they don't have to feel bad about killing him, because now that he's expressed the capacity for love, if he were to ever have gone back to the moon, Bacchus Wrath would have killed him himself.
Yeah, I just would have destroyed him anyways. So we go from there, and Juri, we see a quick shot of the clothes that she borrowed back where she took them from. And there's a little note, which I assume just says, like, thanks for everything, helped save the world. But the woman from whom she borrowed those is deeply dedicated to that shower because she's still in there.
Yeah.
And in between, there has been a building-sized robot fight complete with, like, artillery cannons. And this one was like, well, I mean, I don't know. Maybe she tried to run away, looked outside, saw that her clothes were gone, and just decided to stay in the shower and hope for the best.
I mean, maybe it's one of those things. She had the conditioner in her hair. She knew she had to wait at least, like, 10 minutes for it to set properly, and she just wasn't going anywhere.
So... So we go outside, and Juri has gotten a new bathing suit. Hooray. And she says, hey, guys, you guys were pretty big jerks, and you definitely tried to kill me. And they're like, they're like, Juri, we're so sorry. Like, we're so sorry. They're like falling over themselves. And she says, I'm just kidding. I know you guys couldn't control yourselves. Let's have a day at the beach.
And then they run back into the beach and are shouting about youth in the summer. Now, here is one thing that I did not remember to mention at the beginning of this episode. Is that
I don't think we knew about this at the beginning of the episode because Goro's in the water the whole time.
Oh, no, sorry. There is something that I was going to mention earlier that I forgot to. But I mentioned it again now because we see it again. So... the
thing that I'm talking about, the thing I was talking about is that Goro is wearing like a real intense Speedo. Back to you, Matt.
Oh, yeah. No, yeah, he absolutely is. No, the thing I was going to mention is that they must have scheduled the filming of this episode before they checked the weather that day, because they're meant to be enjoying like a nice summer day at the beach, and it is the gloomiest day possible.
Yeah.
Like, the sky is gray, the water is gray, there's like stuff floating in it. Like, this is not a fun, cool, shiny day at the beach. I live next to Lake Erie, and there are way better days for me to go to the beach than what they're doing here.
And then that's the end of that episode. But Matt, of course, it's not the end of our episode.
No, because first we need to determine how Barracloze fares in the Creature Royale.
So I like Barracloze. He's another sort of like mind controlling monster. Mm-hmm. And so I'm kind of looking at, what was it? Barra Sharpshooter, Barra Scorpion, something like that.
Yeah, the one who had like the poison darts and the robot monocle.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I really appreciated about this guy is that he is... I feel like a lot of the episodes we've had recently, the monsters haven't actually been characters. They've just sort of been like, just monsters. And in this one, he's like an actual dude with like a person, like, a terrible personality, but a personality and like a plan.
Right. So that is Bara Darts. And Bara Darts actually comes in at spot number 40, right around Saragami the Ninja Monkey and Bimbogami, the guy who turns everything into rags.
Yeah, I don't like this guy that much.
No, I'm with you. I was just sort of, he's another mind control-y guy. So I'm looking down as I continue. Man, I feel a little bad, and this sounds silly, that a lot of these monsters are going into the bottom half, but I'm looking at the top half of the monsters, and it's like, at the bottom of the top half, if that makes any sense, is Lieutenant Shiryu, the Pachinko Master, who I really like, Shironiri, the petty ragman, and then we're into like Aunt Bazooka and the Shootin' Doji Brothers.
Yeah,
so
the thing is that like we like most of these monsters, like. So if it ends up near the bottom of the list, like that doesn't mean we don't like it. It just means there's a lot of better ones. Now, where I'm looking is another monster that like made people act against their nature by changing their clothes, and that is the snake armor.
Oh yeah. Well, and then actually below that is the purse monk, who also would like dunk on people's heads and put that weird mask on them.
Yeah, but I don't think he was
also
then able to control them.
Was he not? I thought he did. Anyways, so I think the snake armor is actually a pretty good spot to start. I would say, well, it's tough because I think snake armor had a kind of an overall cooler look, but this was a very, very good episode. Admittedly, mostly for jury.
I mean, snake armor episode was also super good. Remember, there were like the two people who had come from the other dimension who could turn anything into a weapon.
Oh, yeah, man, that was super cool.
But this is a great jury episode. Like, that was a great episode for people who were, like characters that were kind of only in this episode. This one is a very good episode, like a showcase episode for jury, which is something we haven't gotten in a little while, and something I could always use more of.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say just above snake armor is Karakasa, who is another umbrella monster, and then into Nurikabe, which is the wall monster from Ohranger. And I actually think I kind of dig... I think I dig Bara clothes more than either of them.
Okay, well, just above that are two other Ohranger monsters, Bara Vanish and Bara Kandama.
I would say I think I like him better than Bara Vanish, but not as much as Bara Kandama.
Okay, I think that's a pretty good spot.
All right, man. Well, that's where he goes in at our new spot number 75.
Right on. And then that is going to do it for another episode of For Your Eyes Ohranger. Before we finish up the show, I'd like to remind you all you can email us at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, please remember that shining in the iTunes reviews section, there are 5 stars. Rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you find the show, as that is what's going to help new people find it. The Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To find any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do so at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.